Hey, what's going on, guys? In this video, we're going to be taking a look at electron.js. Now, this is something that I'm not an expert in, and I do need to do some more research before I can make a series or a full-blown application. But that will be sometime in the future. But I at least wanted to give you guys an introduction to what Electron is and get a simple application up and running. We're going to build an application that displays system info, so things like the processor type, the total and the free memory available, version info on different applications, and stuff like that. The computer name, stuff that you normally can't access with just a regular web application. So before we get into that, I just want to talk a little bit about what Electron is. So Electron is an open source library that was created by GitHub back in, I think, 2013. And it's used to build cross-platform desktop applications. And you do this with only HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, which is just awesome. And it does this by combining the Chromium browser and Node.js into a single runtime. Okay, so if you don't know what Chromium is, it's an open source web browser that Google Chrome draws its source code from. So it's very similar to Chrome, but there are some differences in features, and the licensing is different. Alright, so apps can be packaged for Windows, Mac, and Linux. I'll be using Windows in this video, but the code is the exact same no matter what platform you're using. Okay, so before we talk about how Electron works, let's just take a look at some of the applications that are built on Electron. So the two most notable here for me are Atom and Visual Studio Code. These are two applications that I use all the time. These are text editors. And I'm sure that a lot of you are familiar with them. But it also is used on the WordPress.com desktop application, Brave browser, which is a web browser that blocks ads and stuff like that. There's also Postman, which isn't on this list, but that's another one I use all the time. That is to test APIs. You can make HTTP requests from, stuff like that. Slack is a messaging app. And these are just some of them. If you go to this URL right here, electron.atom.io/apps, you'll see a full list of some of the really popular applications that are built on Electron. Okay, so I'm going to try to explain as best as I can how Electron works behind the scenes. Alright, so there's a main process and there's a renderer process. The main process runs the package.json's main script, which is usually called main.js, but you could call it anything. It can display a GUI, a GUI, or a graphical user interface by creating web pages, and then every web page runs its own renderer process. Okay, the main process creates instances of something called browser window, and this browser window runs the web page in its own renderer process. Okay, when the browser window is closed or destroyed, so is that renderer process. And the main process manages all the web page and their individual renderer processes. Okay, so this diagram here just shows you that there's a main process and then it branches off to individual renderer processes. Okay, so hopefully that makes a little bit of sense, and when you see the code, that might shine some light on this as well. Alright, so installing Electron is really easy. Obviously you do have to have Node.js installed, so make sure you have that. And then we just need to first install Electron globally so that we can access it from anywhere. We can run the Electron command, and then also in our local application. Okay, we'll create the package.json file, the main.js file, and then index.html, and then we can run our app with Electron, period. Alright guys, so that's enough with the slides. Now we're going to jump in and we're going to take a look at some code and create our starter application. Alright guys, so we're going to get started on our system info application. Now most of the code that we'll be looking at and writing is going to come from this Electron quick start. So if you want, you can just clone this, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go through and create the files and create the code. I just wanted to let you guys know that this is available. And I didn't want to try to pass it off as my own. Like I said, I'm pretty new to Electron. I'm kind of teaching it as I go along, as I learn. So we're going to get this set up, and then we're going to add some extra functionality to it, or extra content in our application. So what I'll do here is just open up my command line. So I'm using git bash for Windows. If you want to use this on Windows, you can go to git-scm.com and you can go ahead and download that. If not, you can use your standard command line or PowerShell or whatever you use. And like I said, this is completely cross-platform, so if you're on a Mac or Linux, this is the exact same thing. You can follow along. Alright, so I'm going to make a directory here, and I'm going to call it sysinfo app. Okay, then we'll cd into sysinfo app. And from here, we're going to create a package.json file, so we're going to do npm init. And obviously, you do have to have Node.js installed. Alright, so let's just enter through these. Description, we'll say simple system monitor. And the entry point is going to be main.js. That's the common convention for Electron. And author, feel free to put your own name there. And we should be all set. So let's go ahead and open up our project folder. And I'm using Atom, which was actually created on Electron. It's a really nice editor. I'd suggest checking it out if you haven't. Alright, so there's our package.json file. Now what we want to do is install Electron, and we want to install it globally and locally. So to install globally, we're going to do npm install -g for global Electron, and that'll install it so that we can access it from anywhere. Alright, so next we want to install it locally. Make sure you're in the application folder, and npm install electron --save so that we can save it as a dependency. Okay, and now you can see I'm using version 1.62, which is the latest at this time. Yours may be later depending on when you're watching this. Alright, so the last thing I want to do in this file is create a start script. We don't need this test, so I'm going to replace it with start. And to start the application, we just want to do electron dot, but we're going to be able to use npm start after creating this. Okay, so let's save that and we can close that up. Now we're going to create our main.js file, which is the main entry point, main process. And we're also going to create index.html. Okay, so let's open up main.js. And we want to bring in a couple things from Electron. So it's an object, so we want to bring in app and also browser window. Okay, so we're going to say equals require, and that's going to be from Electron. Alright, we're also going to bring in the path module, which is a Node.js core module. So we can just say require path. Okay, we'll also bring in the URL module. And we're bringing these in because we need them to load the index.html file. Okay, so now that we did that, let's create a global variable called win. So this is a global reference to the window object. If we don't create this, the window will be closed automatically when the JavaScript object is garbage collected. So we want to just initialize it there. And then we're going to create a function called createWindow, which is going to do just that. It's going to create the browser window. Let's take that win object or variable and set it equal to new browser window. And in here we can put some options. So we'll say width is going to be 800 and height will be 600. Okay, now I want to use a custom icon, so to do that we can include in here icon and then our path. So I'm going to create a folder in here called img, and I have a little gear icon that I'm going to use. So I'm just going to bring this over and go into our application and image and paste that in, and you guys can get this in the code in the description. Okay, now I heard that with Mac it's a little different. You have to use the packager and then include an icon flag, but I'm not sure about that. But here I'm just going to do dir name, and then we will concatenate that /image/sysinfo.ping. Okay, so that creates the object. Now what we want to do is we want to load the index.html page. So we can do that with win.loadURL. And in here, we're going to use the URL module and call format. Oops. And that takes in an object, and we can specify the path name, and we'll use the path module and call join. We want the current directory that this file is in, and then index.html. And let's see, is that correct? Yeah, it looks good. This shouldn't be a semicolon though. We're going to put a comma here, and then we can specify the protocol, and we're going to use file because we're using the file system. You could also use HTTP, and then we have this slashes true, and then that will load this index.html file. Okay, now we also have the option to open up DevTools, which is just the same thing as Chrome DevTools. And obviously you only want this when you're in development. So we can do win.webcontents.open.devtools. Okay, and that'll open it automatically. Let me just put comment up here. Okay, and then here, let's say create browser window. Alright, so down here, we want to basically hook into when the window's closed, and we want to set this value back to, we want to set it to null. So to do that, we're going to say win.on, and the event we want is closed. And then we're going to run a function. I'm going to use an arrow function, and then we're going to set win equals to null. Alright, so that's the create window function. So now we want to load it by doing app.on. We're going to say when it's ready, when the app is ready, then we're going to run create window. Okay, and then let's see down here, I'm going to do a couple extra things. Let's say quit when all windows are closed, and we're going to do app.on. There's an event called window all closed, or window dash all dash closed, and we're going to run a function. And what we want to do is check to see if the user's on a Mac, because on a Mac it's common for applications and their menu to stay active until the user quits explicitly using Command Q. So to test to see if they're on a Mac, we can say if process .platform. We're actually going to test to see if they're not on a Mac. So set that not equal to Darwin. Okay, if you're on OS X, this is going to be Darwin. If you're on Windows, it'll be Win32, I believe. All right, so all we want to do here is just app.quit. All right, and that should be it for our main.js file. So let's save that. And all this really does is create a new browser window, a new process. We're setting the width, height, and the icon, and then we're loading that. We're loading index.html into it. So let's go to index.html, and let's add some HTML tags. We'll say sysinfo app for the title, and I'm going to use Bootstrap. You can use any front-end framework or library that you'd like. And I'm just going to grab from Bootswatch, which is just basically customized Bootstrap. Click download, and I'm going to grab that. Okay, so paste that in there. And then in the body, for now, I'm just going to put an H1. We'll say my app. Okay. Now we have to create a file called renderer, so renderer.js. Now we're going to leave it blank, but as you can see, it says this file is required by index.html and will be executed in the renderer process for that window. All of the Node.js APIs will be available in this process. Okay, so we're not getting too deep into this, so we're not going to put anything in there, but we will require it. So we can put script tags here, and then we can just say require, and we want to require renderer.js. So let's save that, and let's just create that file. And we're not going to put anything in it for now. I may continue this later on once I do a little bit more research. So we should now be able to run our application. Let's go to our command line, and I'm going to run npm start. Okay, let's see, I just got an error. Let me bring it down. A JavaScript error uncaught. win.webcontents is not a function. Alright, hold on. Let's go back to main.js. Oh, I put parentheses here. That shouldn't be there. Alright, let's try it again. Okay, let me just bring that down. And there's our application. It's an actual desktop application. You can see our icon right here. We have a menu, file with exit. Later on, when we build a real application, we'll work with this menu, but by default, you can see what we have here. Okay, cut, copy, paste, things like that. We can reload the application, force reload. We can toggle the developer tools. Okay, zoom in. We can minimize, close, and then we have some help on documentation, stuff like that. All right, so this is an actual desktop application. If we look at our task manager, and you can see in Electron we have sysinfo app with our custom icon. All right, so this is pretty damn cool. For that little amount of code that we just did, we can create a desktop application. All right, and guys, I know that this tutorial is probably going to leave you thirsty for more, so once I get into it and learn a little bit more, I'll be able to teach it, and I'll be able we'll create a cool application. All right, but let's go ahead and finish this. We're going to go to index.html, and let's create a div here with a class of container. And inside here, we're going to put an h1 that just says sysinfo app. Okay, and then we're going to put a div here with an ID of output, because we're going to generate our HTML through JavaScript. Okay, so down here, let's go above this script tag and create another one. And then from here, we should be able to access the process data. So let's say console.log, and we want to log process. Okay, we'll save it, and then let's go back to our desktop app and reload and go to the console, and you'll see this process. Okay, so this object has a lot in it. It has all different functions and different properties that we can access. All right, let's see. So get system memory info. That's a function we can run that will give us an object with all the memory on our machine and the used memory, and also the swap, use swap memory, and something else I can't remember. We'll check it out. What else? We also have this versions object, which will give us the version of Node, Electron, Chrome, and a bunch of other stuff. And what else? Uptime. And then we have this env object here, which has a whole bunch of stuff. So it has our process identifier, Intel 64, family 6, gives you the model, gives you all the path data, your public folders, your computer name, all kinds of stuff. So what we're going to do is just output some of this onto the screen. So let's go down here, and we're going to create a variable called output and set that equal to, and then we're going to use these backticks because we're going to use a template string here. so we don't have to do all kinds of concatenation and stuff. And then let's put an h2, give this a class of page header, and this is going to be, we'll say app version data. Okay, and we're going to put a UL, and we'll use a class of list group, which is a bootstrap class, and then some LIs, say list group item, and let's see, we're going to put the version of node on this machine. Okay, now we can use variables in a template string with the money sign and then curly braces, and we're going to access that process and then versions dot node. Alright, so let's see if that works. We'll save it and go back to our app, and then let's do view reload. Oh wait, we didn't output it yet, so we got to do document dot get element by ID, and we want output, and we're going to set that dot inner HTML equal to output. Alright, let's try that, and there we go, gives us the version of Node that's installed. Okay, we can also get the version of Chrome and Electron, which I'm going to output. So I'm going to copy this LI and change this to Chrome and change this to Chrome. Okay, then we'll do Electron, change that. Okay, save it, and let's go over here and reload, and there we go, we have the versions of Node, Chrome, and Electron. So the next part we're going to do is system specs. Now I'm not going to just type all this in because it'll take too long, so I'm just going to paste it, and you can see if we go over here, we're looking at process.arc, and it tells you right here I have a 64-bit, and then we're also accessing the env and then process identifier. Okay, and then we can even look at the printer, and env printer will give you the main system printer. So let's take a look at that, and there we go, processor identifier, and just tells you I have an HP DeskJet 1050 J410 series, and that's correct. Alright, so we can access even system peripherals. Okay, next we're going to display some memory info, so let me paste that in. Now for the memory, there's a function called getSystemMemoryInfo, which returns an object, and we're getting the total memory, the free memory, the swap total, and the swap free. So let's save that, and I'm just going to close that up. And down here you can see my total system memory, what's free, and so on. So, alright, so that's pretty cool. And then the last thing we're going to get is the computer info, so the name, the username, things like that, and that's all available in that env object. So let's save that, reload, and there we go. Computer name, the username, paths, system drive, and system root. So now we have an actual desktop application that gives us information on the machine. Alright, I know it's not that much, guys, but I just wanted to kind of do an intro video here just to show you what Electron is and a little bit of how it works. Alright, so I promise I'm going to do some more research and we're going to build something really cool. Alright, so thanks for watching, guys. If you're not subscribed, please do so, and that's it. Thanks.